Let's get it on.
Welcome to the Sega Lounge, where we celebrate our love for all things Sega, including the games, the music, and the community. I'm your host, KC. Join me as I talk to different guests and learn more about their projects and passion for Sega. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sega Lounge. Welcome. This is a very special episode because I have, as always, my co-host, James Brown. Hello, James.
Hello, my co-host, Casey. How you doing, buddy?
It's the Skill Gym Lounge. But yeah, so this is a very special occasion. This is a very special episode because I don't just have James with me, but I also have Matt Oliver. Hello, Matt. Welcome back.
Hey, Casey. How you doing, man? You all right?
Doing great. Thank you very much. How are you?
We've allowed him on our show.
I've been allowed out of the sort of the drawer or the cage that people keep me in, I reckon. Because there hasn't been a Matt rant for a long time, so that's why I've been let out.
If it was up to me, you'd be on the show more often, but James doesn't allow me to do it. So
No,
It's
Matt,
his
you're
show
welcome
after all.
anytime on the Skill Gym Lounge.
It's getting more and more true by the day. So this has been in the at least it's been in my head as like an idea since the start of this season. Not that you guys knew about it, but it was. So I looked at like the calendar, the 2023 calendar, and I wanted to find a fourth of the month. There was a Friday, because that's usually when the podcast goes out. So we could have a discussion about Shenmue. So the title of this episode is going to be hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4, which is, the campaign that, people in the Shenmue community take part in every fourth of every month. So I wanted to invite you guys on the show again to discuss, in a little bit more detail, the importance of these campaigns. Also talk a little bit about what Shenmue means to you guys, right? And to all of us. And so I'm really glad that you guys could join me for this special episode. For people, I mean, who listens to this show and doesn't know who you guys are? But let's say there's a couple of people listening in right now, and they're not familiar with you guys and your work. So let's start with you, Matt. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your involvement with the Shenmue community?
Oh, okay. I'll try and keep it brief. So, yeah, I'm as brief as I can. I'm Matt Oliver. I'm one half of the Shenmue Dojo ownership. Long story short, James and I took the place on around 3 years ago now, actually, which is a bit of a blink of an eye in itself. And it's gone from there. We took it on in terms of just as Shenmue 3 had been released. We then got the anime announcement, and that's pretty much when we really sort of hit our stride, I guess. And we, between the two of us, we do streams, we put out videos, we do blogs, we do interviews. It's a big plethora of stuff that Dojo does on top of the preservation that it's done for Shenmue over the last 20 years and God knows how many owners in between.
Nice. I think that
Well
was
done, Matt. That was brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Very, very.
I don't think you need
brief,
to go to me now.
concise. No, I want to go to you, James. Not only because if I don't, you fire me, but also, because you have some side projects of your own as well,
Okay.
right? Part of the dojo, but also on your own, kind of. So, what about you? Your involvement with the Shenmue community?
Yeah, well, same with Matt. We both kickstarted the dojo like 3 years ago. We took over, and I can't believe it's been that long already, Matt. But prior to that, I've been part of the dojo as a person, just part of the community ever since I can remember, to be honest, ever since I stepped foot in the shoes of Azuki, and the website was a thing. But yeah, since then, me and Matt, we've come on leaps and bounds, I think, over the last few years, making shows, content. My side project of Shenmue World, which I've got to hand, actually. I've always got to hand. So like a fan magazine. It's a Shenmue Dojo fan magazine called Shenmue World. We've done 2 issues. I'm hoping to release issue 3 at the end of the year, so that's something that's like a goal for me that I want to achieve. And the other project that I'm part of is Sukapass, that I do with Switch at Phantom Riverstone. Great little app, community app. It's basically the Shenmue 1 passport disc, that disc 4 that came with Shenmue on the Dreamcast, and that is like literally in your phone, in the palm of your hand. Yeah, Casey showing it there. It's it's pretty much there as it stands, probably about 85% complete, but we are continuing to still work on it. There's a last few little bits and bobs that we want to get complete over the next coming months, and it's just been a nice little side project, not taking up too much of my time, not too intensive, but just something that we've gradually worked on, and pretty pleased with that, pretty proud of the stuff that we've done. Actually, we've done a decent job, haven't we, Matt?
I'd like to think so. It can be time consuming, it can be difficult. There's a lot of challenges running a community website, not just the practical elements of it as well, keeping content going, keeping it fresh. But I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world. We've been quite lucky with the fact we had the anime and things to keep us going. We're now in I'd want to use the term quieter period. Hopefully things are burning behind the scenes, shall we say. But that's when it's at its toughest, and we're having to think of content, trying to keep things fresh, keep it moving, keep people engaged as well, because the community is massively important to Shenmue.
Yeah, it's probably the most important time, right? So when you have official stuff coming out, it's easy to just like let things roll on their own. So it's a challenge, but it's also more important when things are a little bit like quieter.
Yeah, sometimes like when the anime was released, we were just swept off our feet, weren't we, Matt? It was like, I'm really pleased that this is happening, but I just want some rest.
Yeah, excellent. And I'm glad you guys mentioned all of the things that the community has done. We'll get into that. So as we said before, the purpose of this show is to highlight the power and the importance of the community in keeping Shenmue alive. And you guys are the best people in the world to discuss that and attest to this. But first of all, on a more personal note, and because I still see people not getting why there are so many Shenmue fans and why Shenmue fans are so passionate. So, briefly as you can manage, what does Shenmue mean to you personally? And you feel free to, I don't know, maybe Matt first.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, take away the graphics, the music, and the atmosphere and everything. The biggest thing it was for me was an escape. Shenmue, and it still is now, it's an escape. It's a world within a world that you can just drop into, forget everything. And at 14, when I discovered it, my dad was critically ill at the time as well. So as a 14-year-old lad, I didn't really have an escape, and Shenmue was that escape. So you take away the gameplay elements, you strip it all back, it was an escape for me, and it resonated so much that I think it's just stuck with me for the rest, in gaming and sort of going forward in life as well. It is an absolute escape, and that is why for me it's so special, because it helped me through some very, very tough times.
I think it just came at the right time when, with a sort of growing pubescent teenage sort of life, and it just swept. Did I say swept off our feet a minute ago? But it just swept us off our feet. But I think it is true. It's just, for me, it came at the right time. It came when like I was wanting to get something fresh out of gaming, and this was like the biggest change to gaming. Such an impact at the time. It just captivated your imagination. You literally felt like you were Ryo Hazuki, you're immersed. It's that sort of thing. I know it's cheesy, but it's like that is our home away from home. And there's just a lot of it's really difficult to put into words, but it is literally, and again, it's a bit cringy, but it's changed my life, not just for like knowing people, great people like yourselves, some of the community members, like friends that I've slept over at people's houses, and Matt stayed around my house, like slept on my sofa. And, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have these interactions with these great people without Shenmue. But not only that, it's like it's sort of projected where my life is heading. Like, I've been studying Japanese. Took back my university degree and tried to get a degree, which I can quite proudly say that I've actually got a degree now, and that was because of Shenmue. Really, it's because I want to try and live in Japan, because I've got this strangely otherworldly connection to Japan now. Like, the culture just resonated so much with me that is where I want my life to be. And just these little steps that I've been taking to try and get to that is all because of Shenmue, and just what it did to me as this youth back in my high school days. It just, like, it's so hard to put into words what it means. It's just it's just that if you know, you know.
Yeah. And it's I think you touched on maybe the biggest thing here, because you were like 14, Matt, right?
Yeah,
You
14.
said maybe around the same age for you, James, as well, right? Maybe
I think 13. Am I like 1 year below you, Matt? I can't.
Okay.
We are close. I'm 36 at the moment. So.
I'm 36. I got it.
Okay.
Just
same then.
around
Feeling old,
It was just around my 14th birthday that I got it.
Okay. I got it for Christmas 2000.
Yeah, and mine was just after that.
I got it in September 2001, and I was 17. So I'm a little bit older than you guys. Barely, just 3 years. But yeah, it was a specific time in each of our lives, like formative years. I remember I was doing an internship at that point, as part of like high school. It was like a professional course, and it resonated with me, and like the responsibilities of Ryo's Hazuki, and the life he had in Japan, and all of that. Like, the culture, like James said, it all resonated with me. The music, we've mentioned that before as well. So it was a pretty specific game in a pretty specific time of our lives. So maybe that's why it means so much, for at least for us. For other people, they were older, maybe younger, and it still resonated with them as well. So
I can imagine so, yeah. I mean, it's strange when you put it on paper like that, this type of game, doing that to, someone of like 14 years old, because really, like you say, like the mundanity of the game, really, like at that we should be like outside playing football, wanting like games today, like Call of Duty, like shooting, or just. But this was like a game that was like, it wanted you, it made you just slow down, and I don't know why, but that just was where my headspace was at, I guess.
Yeah,
at the time.
It was what I needed at the time as well. Definitely, and no other words to describe it.
Definitely. I remember going to work, like that internship, very early in the morning. I took the train, and I had like a 10-minute walk from my house to the train station. I saw like not really the sun go up, but like, it was early morning. And I remember just walking in, like imagining the music, the soundtrack to Shenmue, and like thinking, oh, I really wish I could be playing this game. It consumed every part of my day almost, apart from the times where I was really into my work. But apart from that, I was always thinking about Shenmue. So it was really,
I still do to today.
Yeah.
I've said it before. It's like, it's just part of my brain now that's like always turned on to Shenmue. I could be walking through a forest and I can hear Guerrilla music. Okay. I'm just thinking of like, especially with what me and Matt do, it's like you're constantly turned on. Your phone keeps pinging. I mean, technology is probably, it's a blessing in disguise in that sense, because like, you will get into it, like the community, because of social media and stuff, potentially brought the game back, but it's just seeing your phone pinging all day non-stop. It's like it's a hard life these days. It's hard to get away from it, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be, and things always happen when you think it's never going to happen. There's nothing going on, and on the 4th of every month, there's always something.
That's
something
why you've got to check your phone.
Bloody 4th, and then all hell's breaking loose. And the one time you don't check your phone, it'd be Shenmue 4's been announced.
Well, that's it. That is the pull. That is the allure, isn't it? It's like whenever you look at your phone, that could be the Shenmue 4 announcement, and it just within that moment.
Yeah. I was listening to, I don't know if it was like your latest episode of the podcast, but you were saying something like Matt was in like meetings all day. I don't remember what the thing was.
Yeah, it was.
Probably.
Yeah.
There was something happening, and it was like, oh no, I'm in meetings, and I just have to check my phone in between meetings and doing stuff for the website. So it was always pretty stressful, but it's for a good cause as well.
I'm surprised you've not been sacked yet, Matt.
Careful.
Yeah, so it's like the Chief Operating Shenmue Officer, COSO.
I have to give you that title, Matt.
That's a great title.
It's better than P45.
Okay, so we've talked about this. As James said, if you know, you know, right? And I imagine people listening to us at least have some understanding of why Shenmue is important. And if not, again, there are ways to get to play the game in a more accessible manner these days with the HD remakes or remasters, sort of. So just try the game for yourself and try to see if you get it. Try to get it or play it with an open mind, I would say. But we talked about the community and the importance of the community. So going back to that huge gap between Shenmue 2 and the announcement of Shenmue 3. For someone from the outside looking in, nothing happened, right? And it maybe it felt like it came out of nowhere, that announcement at E3 2015 happened. If you were not a Shenmue fan or not part of the community, not in tune with the community, probably they thought, okay, so Yu Suzuki finally decided to release a third game. But obviously that's not the case. There was a lot of work from the community in getting this third game out and making this happen. In your if you have far more experience with this than I do, how big was how important was the community in making this happen? And in your own personal cases, how involved were you in this process of trying to push things into happening, which finally led to that announcement?
Come on, Matt, if you want to.
That's a toughie, isn't it? I mean, the community is massively, massively important. I will caveat it as well in that had Yu Suzuki came out and said all those years ago, it's not happening, game over, I think he has the overriding, I don't want to use the word say, but if he came out and said it was over, I think then the community would have disbanded and it would have been done and dusted. Because he never did. There was always that hope there. He never released a story in an alternative form. He never considered it, from what I understand. So there was always that hope there. So from sort of 2003 onwards, obviously we had that big gap. There were things happening. I mean, you take Shenmue as a brand. You had Shenmue Online pop up, the ill-fated online version of Shenmue, which some of that is blatantly canon, or certainly was at the time. You then had Shenmue City as well, the mobile game, a few years later. So they had tried to revive Shenmue, but not done it successfully for a multitude of reasons, some of which are probably legal, other bits where funding may or may not work, whatever it was, it just didn't happen. But the community had always been there. And in those dark years, and I call them really dark years, sort of 2007 onwards, I guess, when it was really, really quiet, because Shenmue City was a bolt from the blue. Nobody expected it. It came out of nowhere. The community kept chipping away. It had always been there. So when you think back, and James will remember this as well, when everybody sent capsule toys to Sega, that's one example where because people wanted Shenmue, they sent boxes and boxes and boxes of the things to Sega headquarters, for goodness sake, to make a point. Every poll that was out there at the time, if Shenmue was named, Fate best game of all time, best, series should make a comeback, the community were all over it. Everywhere you could go. And then I think as time went on, it became a lot more coordinated when I think Twitter really started coming to the forefront as well. And Team U, who were one of the community groups that were around that time, sort of not a splinter group of the Shenmue 500k, but sort of intertwined with it, then started honing in on Twitter and the hashtags that were there. So hashtag save Shenmue, hashtag give you Suzuki, give you the Shenmue license, the thunderclaps, where tweets were set up to go out at the exact same time, so you maximize the potential for this thing to start trending. The community had always been there, and it had always been chipping away, and then it became really focused around sort of 2013, 14 time, probably 13. But with that as well, some of the things that had been happening behind the scenes, the groundwork has started to be laid. When James and I talked about this in a podcast we did a while back, when we looked at the Team U timeline, and they started talking about sort of 2007 to 2012, Sega were really dismissive of Shenmue. They're like, nope, not interested. There was a tweet from one of the Sega representatives basically slating Shenmue, slating the community. And it was quite harsh, I think, is probably the word I'd use. Progress that onwards, sort of 2013, 14, the tone changed. And that's when the community really sort of grabbed onto it. And then you talk about 2014, the GDC stuff. And that's like, hang on a second, there's something potentially going on here. But then behind the scenes in that year between GDC 14 and then the announcement 2015, there's lots going on behind the scenes. Murmurs start coming out. But those murmurs don't happen without the community keeping it alive. Yeah. That's the big thing here. The community throughout, through campaigns, hashtags, toy capsules, posters, videos, you name it, the community was imperative, absolutely imperative in getting this thing or keeping it alive. That was the thing. In those dark years where there was nothing happening at the hardest points, the community didn't waver. It kept going. And that's what did it. And while I wasn't involved in the dojo too much, or involved massively on a personal level like I am now, I'd still be there retweeting things and voting in those things as I could. But Shenmue doesn't live without the community. It doesn't. It lives and dies by the community. It's such a community-driven IP that I think, it's the only other thing person who's probably going to drive it forward is Yu Suzuki himself.
Yeah, well, it's the community. It's Yu Suzuki. He's quoted saying, like, everywhere he went, people were saying, when are we going to get 3? When are we going to get 3? If you can do it as a manga or an anime, and he's got these things that he's hearing from everyone constantly, non-stop, and he's tried to get it back, like you say, Matt, with Shenmue Online. That was an attempt. Shenmue City was an attempt. Both kind of failed, and I'll never understand the reasons behind those kind of things failing. But ultimately, we didn't get fed up. We're kind of in a worse state now, I feel like, because we've had the Shenmue 3. So, like, everything was building, that momentum was building, the sort of, like, anticipation and, like, come on, what's going on. And now Shenmue 3's happened. It's kind of like that sort of people taking it for granted kind of things kicked in a little bit. So we have sensed a little bit of a drop-off in terms of, like, that same sort of a momentum and that same sort of a push. And, it's up to people like me and Matt and, Shenmue Forever, Phantom Riverstone, Shenmue Master. Those sort of communities are still pitting together to try and rekindle that same sort of a passion and drive that we had pre-Shenmue 3. And it is still there. There's still a very vocal community. I think we'll never not be a vocal community until we get the final game in the series and we can all put a line under it and go off on our happy horses or something. I don't know, but until that happens, I do think there'll always be, however small or big, there'll be a very dedicated group of Shenmue fans that are going to keep pestering you, Suzuki. Definitely.
Yeah, and as they should. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do this show, because I'm not the most vocal of Shenmue fans, although I do mention Shenmue
every show.
Probably every show, every episode of every show that I do, and every project that I have related to video games. But in terms of like getting really involved with these community initiatives, I'm probably not the best example. But I feel like it's easy to get for granted or to take for granted the things that we got so far, right? And think that, okay, so we got Shenmue 3, we got the anime, so it's okay. I don't really need to do anything anymore because we'll eventually get Shenmue 4 or whatever it is that comes after. We'll get it, so I don't need to do anything. But it's not really the case, is it? It's important, and Matt's like, no,
yeah. Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, and Casey's right in that we have been spoiled as Shenmue fans in the recent history. We got Shenmue 3, and then literally out of nowhere, the anime just turned up and was fantastic as well. So we've been spoiled. We've had content consistently. We've had merchandise consistently from Sega Shop and other outlets as well. And people may have seen Insert Coin and Sega Shop giving us the old eyes on Twitter about some of the things we've been posting recently in terms of, why don't you make this? And they go, you never know. And so we've been spoiled, and it is easy to drop into that it's okay, we've done our job mentality. There's also, and not to bring Shenmue 3 into it, there is a portion of the community that for whatever reason didn't like Shenmue 3, and that's okay, right? It's a game, everybody has their preferences. What needs to happen in my view is people need to move past it and decide what they want. Do you want a Shenmue 4? That's the question. I've asked this in multiple streams, videos. I've been quite upfront and probably too brazen in what I think about it, but that's just me and my character. I will just say it as I see it. We need people to come in and band together, because now it's probably more important than it was back when Shenmue 2 had finished. We had the cliffhanger, we had that big build all the way to E3. We're in the hard yards now, because the community has to stay vocal, because we are small. But we have to show to publishers, for example, that Shenmue is still viable, because, for want of a better expression, as much as it pains the three of us to hear this, Shenmue as a commercial venture has probably not been overall successful, but recently had probably better success. When you think the anime was considered the most successful original they did that year, the HD releases were considered, certainly from a sales point of view, Sega said they were fine. Shenmue 3 did financially fine. So there is potential there. But because we're such a small community, some publishers may look at it and go, well, they're small. Why would we bother?
Yeah, small fish.
Because at the end of the day, they may look at it and go, we can make a couple of $1 million profit, but if I go this way, I could make $20 million profit. And we need to be loud, proud, and say it, to basically say, we are here, we want it, and essentially come and take our money. That's what publishers will look at. And then I think on the flip side of it, given the difficulties, I guess, the challenges around the post Shenmue 3, some of the reaction to that, it's also, we have to be a united front, because otherwise we won't get anything. And we just won't, and it'll fall away, and that'll be probably the worst thing that can happen for it. And I just think now more than ever, it's the time, if we're going to push this thing forward, it has to be now. We can't sit back and just ride a wave, because that wave won't happen. It needs to be the community driving it forward. We all need to be on this and being as loud as we can to Sega, to whoever, and go, give us that fourth game. Give us that.
Yu Suzuki isn't getting any younger either, so
no, he's not. And he's the same age as my dad, who's in his like mid-60s, so he's not going to be, he's want to go and enjoy retirement. You can't blame him. But also, if the community goes quiet, he'll then go, well, they don't want it, so I'm going to leave it. And that's that. And when he says, I'm not going to do it, then that is it. We are done. And if we go quiet, that's what will happen.
You've got a few positives, I suppose, in the sense that he is continuing to work on games. He's not just sat quietly in a chair on his own. He's got Air Twister that's actually getting released to consoles, PC in November, which, if you're not aware, it's like a Space Harrier / I'd say Panzer Dragoon sort of type of game from Yu Suzuki. So that the guy that like invented that kind of a style of gameplay, obviously with Space Harrier. And it's brilliant. Playing it on my phone for a year now. Absolutely fantastic game, and I'm excited to actually see when more people get their hands on what the overall consensus is with that, because I do hope that it does well. And it's those type of things that also the community needs to really lap up and take on board, because they're by purchasing that game digitally, physically, supporting it, they're essentially giving money to help fund a Shenmue 4, because it's going to go into, Wisenet's bank somewhere. Part of it will anyway. And hopefully they can continue to, if they've got these little side things, or if you can even call Air Twister a side thing, I don't know. I'm just comparing it to like the massive Shenmue.
Yeah, it's getting like a physical release. So
exactly,
so it's current gen consoles as well. So
so it's pretty much it's
bigger than maybe we expected it to be.
Exactly. And if they can continue to do things like that, Yu Suzuki, I know he mentioned a few different things that he wants to do. He would like to do like a driving game or something, or I can't remember what they exactly were, Matt. Maybe another outrun type game.
That was it.
Yeah, like a red Ferrari, or I don't know, he just loves Ferrari stunty, but
Ferreira?
Yeah. If we can continue to do that sort of thing, and we can generate money that way as well, it's all going to go hopefully towards potentially a Shenmue 4. They could even, we've spoken about it, maybe they might consider self-publishing in it. If, they're getting earnings from different projects like that, and they can continue to chip away on a Shenmue game. As long as it plays like Shenmue 3, I'm all for it.
I think it's interesting that he's doing what he's doing, and the companies he's partnering with. So you mentioned on the show, on your last show, in games work closely. I think they're still working with Ryushi Nishizawa, the creator of Wonder Boy. And they released the latest, like the anniversary collection, the re-release, the remaster of Wonder Boy 4. They were responsible for that. They're not like a big name, right? That people recognize. Even that, I'm saying this because I like Wonder Boy. I covered those releases as well. You guys probably didn't mention that on the show because you're not really into that. So it's easy to dismiss perhaps the partners that Yu Suzuki is using, but I think it's smart because he's using the people that guarantee that he'll have the games released in the territories that he wants to release them in, and maybe in a cheaper way than working with big name publishers.
Maybe more care will be taken by those people because they're passionate about games, aren't they? Whereas we experienced it with Deep Silver and stuff when they came on board. It just felt like they were trying to rush the project out from that point onwards, and
it's tricky, isn't it? Because I think in games they position themselves as sort of looking at legacy IP, bringing them back, or giving them that sort of care, attention, exposure that they may not get now. So like Casey's saying, it's a smart move from Yu Suzuki to test those waters with a publisher like that. I guess the challenge for a publisher like that is, would they, if they were interested in a Shenmue 4, have the capital to be able to put a significant amount of funding in? I don't know, but then
I think so. I was saying this as in this way. It's smart to do other projects with publishers like these, because when it comes to Shenmue, I think I really don't understand why, at this moment in time, why Sega. I don't know if they're not, but if they're not interested, I can understand why. Because I'm sure, as you mentioned, the HD remasters sold relatively well. I'm sure, right? The anime was successful. There is interest, and they know, and they are, I think, more community oriented again at this moment. So I think they know that the people want uh, another Shenmue game. So I don't really understand why they wouldn't be on board and say, okay, let's publish this game.
Especially with like the resurgence of the Yakuza series as well. They could have like gone out of the way to sort of promote Shenmue under the wing of that and like tried to, the fans have been crying out for so long. Let's sort of piggyback off Yakuza's sudden success, and these ways of marketing Shenmue and under that sort of hierarchy in a sense. Not I mean, to us, Shenmue will always be above Yakuza, but Yakuza is undoubtedly this massive franchise right now. So I mean, they could have found a way.
People consider it like a spiritual successor.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
they do.
Even if we know that it's not really the same thing, but doesn't hurt to market it like that and take advantage of that, right?
No, I mean, it's smart, isn't it? When you've got, it's called Like a Dragon now, isn't it? Which is a little bit confusing for some people, I'm sure.
Which is the actual original name.
Yeah, which it's mad. Like a Dragon Yakuza and going back and forth on it, but it's smart because they are spiritual. They borrow from each other. I liken them as cousins almost. They have some similarities, but then branch off into very different things. But actually, you can tag into those together almost and go, if it RGG and I were to pick up Shenmue, and that's probably if Sega were going to do it, you would think that would be the studio that pick it up would be RGG. Actually, they could almost take that feather in the cap as well and go, we're going back to our roots a little bit here. This is where Yakuza came from. This is where Like a Dragon came from. We're going to do Shenmue, but we're going to bring it forward. We're going to push it forward, potentially finish it. There's an argument for and against that, whether a fourth game should finish it or not. That's another debate in itself. But they could, in theory, if they wanted to, Sega go all in on it and go, right, we're going to finish this series. Here it is. RGG do it. You market it alongside sort of tying into some of the Yakuza stuff and maybe some of the mechanics, etc. in there. And you're probably not going to be a million miles away, are you?
It's that simple, really, isn't it?
I mean, they don't even need to develop it, right? So they could just provide technical, use the same engine, the Like a Dragon engine, maybe provide some technical support or something.
It'd be things like, for example, Shenmue 3, the mocap was done at Wisenet in the office. Yeah. One bloke with a mocap suit in the office, and they couldn't do throws because they'd break it. Sega has a state-of-the-art mocap studio. Something like that would have made a hell of a difference. And we were talking about, in the Kickstarter show that we just did, they were talking about the mocap for the original games, how they were having people actually hit each other all in mocap suits and pulling them back and making sure all that falling was there. So it looked realistic. They didn't have the benefit of that for Shenmue 3 because obviously that's going to cost a lot of money. But something like that Sega could quite easily do would make a massive difference to the presentation of that game.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, I don't know if we can actually get that information somewhere, maybe by researching, perhaps, obviously. I wonder if there are any members of the original Shenmue team working at RGG Studio at the moment.
That honestly wouldn't surprise me.
Anyone?
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think so too. Right? There should be someone somewhere.
I reckon so.
Yeah.
Unless Nagoshi took them all when he left.
Okay.
Who knows?
And that's another potential partner. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I suppose, funnily enough, we were talking about Yu Suzuki being 60, in his late 60s or mid 60s now. There's got to be succession planning involved to get this thing finished. And Nagoshi surely would be up there as somebody who worked on the original games back in the day. as someone who could potentially pick up that mantle. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
He did mention that, didn't he, Yu Suzuki? Like, we were watching, this was in the Kickstarter episode that we did recently, but he definitely mentioned somewhere, like, was it an AMA, or he replied to a comment or something. He definitely said that he's got a sort of a successive plan in place. So I'm sure he must be well aware. And again, when you think back to the credits rolling in Shenmue 3, and there's that message at the bottom that he's going to do everything he can to spin the next tale of Ryo's journey in Shenmue 4. You know, I'm sure there's a plan there. It's just not fruitioned yet, if that's the right verb.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Because we know they've talked to publishers. We Cedric said that coming up 3 years ago now when I spoke to him. They've spoken to some publishers. Whether one of those got over the line, we don't know. There was the 110 Industries rumours, which have floated around for a year now, which personally I think are probably dead in the water now anyway, whether they carried any credence at the time. Well, if they didn't, then it was a lot of trolling, put it that way. So but again, sort of pulling it back to the community, the moment that rumour came out, that 110 rumour, for example, the community, bam, buzzing, absolutely buzzing. And that's the level of engagement that we need now.
Yeah.
That little carrot was enough to get that buzz in, and it started hitting main news sites again. Shenmue 4, what's going on here? That's the level of noise we need to be making. And and I don't want to sound critical here, but it's easy to do it when you've got a carrot in front of you that somebody might be doing it.
Yeah.
It's when that carrot's not there. That's the hard yards that we're in now.
Going back to what you said about Shenmue 3, I don't really understand the mindset of, I didn't really like Shenmue 3, so I'm just gonna pout and I quit this. So I really wanted to know.
Long.
I really wanted to know how the story ends, but I don't like Shenmue 3, so I wanted Ryo to throw people when fighting. So I'm upset now, and I quit. That doesn't really make much sense, right?
No.
So even if it's not by any means a bad game. We've discussed this many times, but at this point, but it's really a case of like maybe going back to the game, experiencing it with. Like,
definitely,
maybe from a different
fresh
perspective.
coat of eyes,
exactly, and probably you'll appreciate it more. Is it the perfect game? It's not, but is it the game that we wanted? I'm getting more and more convinced that it's the game that we wanted.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways. Could be better.
I don't know what people want. That's the thing. What do people want? Because it is a Shenmue game. It could have been way crazier than it is. It could have been, more photorealistic, or they could have honed in on control schemes and all this sort of stuff. But at the heart of it, it is a core Shenmue game. The way it plays, the way it feels, the way you can talk to every NPC, these voice dialogue is a perfect Shenmue game. It's just lacking in certain areas. And I mean, you only have to look, and this is something that me and Matt have been talking about recently, of like ways of making a bit of a push. On, is it Metacritic, Matt? It's like a 7.8, right?
The fan reviews are.
Oh, really?
The reviewer reviews are around a 68. Okay. And on Steam, it's around, I think it's a 77, 78 on Steam reviews out of users. So it's not universally hated at all. In actual fact, with the Metacritic reviews, there's more reviews that are a 7 out of 10 or above than there are that aren't. But obviously, Metacritic weights things funny in terms of who reviews it. So that may I've never added them all up and actually worked it out properly, quite frankly, but I'd imagine it'd probably sit around a 70 if I was being honest.
Yeah. So we were sort of debating of
the PC version, like the review critics, the critic reviews 69.
Yeah.
On average. User score, so this is for the PC version only, 6.2.
I mean, that got epic bombed, didn't it? Badly. That was
That's
the whole
the thing
Epic
as
Store
well,
thing,
yeah.
wasn't it? Whereas the PS4 one's about
PS4
7.4.
7.7 user score,
Yeah.
67 critic reviews. So yeah,
Okay.
there's like a 100 from digitally downloaded.
What's that mean?
Publication?
I've never heard of them.
digitally
but fair play.
downloaded.net.
Oh, they gave it 100. Yeah.
There you go.
They,
well
they
done.
give it 100. Yeah.
There you go.
On November 26th, 2019. So yeah, nice.
Must be a good game.
Matt S. must be the name. Must
Matt
be the
and
name.
skill.
Yeah. Shenmue 3 won't disappoint fans of the first two. But that's almost secondary to the real story here. Shenmue 3's real strength is in the way that it suggests a different way of looking at the very storytelling of video games. It challenges the idea that a game's value is in it aspiring to be cinema, and it provides a pretty compelling argument for the alternative too. On a personal note, as a fan of both theater and Shenmue, this game is effortlessly my pick of what has been a very good 2019 for the creative side of video games.
There you go, spot on.
It's a very interesting way of looking at it as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I was saying was like, it's not far from being able to be pushed towards an 8 anyway. So on those user score basis. So if anyone out there is listening that enjoyed Shenmue 3, perhaps you didn't think it was the perfect game, but if you've not left a review and you want to see Shenmue 4, something that me and Matt was like thinking we could do is like, just since it was review bombed as well, I think it's fair that you could give it a 10 to try and counteract that. And if we can get it to like an 8, that was something like we were thinking, like, is it possible? Could we like gather enough people to sort of get this to an 8? It's then sounds amazing then, doesn't it? You can go on social medias and stuff and say and announce to the world, oh, Shenmue's officially an 8, scored an 8 now. You know what I mean? It's not as bad as people make out, because people see a 7 or whatever and instantly dismiss it, whereas an 8 is actually quite favourable.
Yeah, and it's that mentality, isn't it, around 7 out of 10 games? I mean, some of the best games, in my mind, I've ever played are 7 out of 10 games.
Yeah.
For sure, man. For sure.
Yeah. Shenmue 1 and 2, by the way, on the PlayStation 4 has 8.3. Xbox One 7.8. PC 7.9. So,
see, we were laughing about that because it's like the originals are like 10s and 9s, but you put them together, 78.
I mean, it's not they're not the best like remasters.
Yeah,
maybe
that's where it's coming from, of course. Yeah,
I think it's fair.
Yeah,
fair. I think 8.3, considering they're. Yeah, for the games they are, the games themselves, like 10 games, 10 out of 10, but maybe 8.3, 8.5.
Yeah, I don't think it's particularly unfair as well when you consider the ports and how they came over, some of the issues that they had at the time as well.
Yeah.
And they have had some, like I say, modicum of success. There's been new Shenmue fans who've picked Shenmue up through these re-releases who are now like lifelong fans.
Yeah.
So it's definitely served its purpose. And also at the end of the day, it's the most convenient way to play Shenmue now, isn't it? Unless you're going to either emulate it, which, we don't advocate piracy too much, but games preservation is a whole nother issue in itself.
Yeah.
But you don't need to. Just get them on your Steam Deck, eh?
Exactly. You can get it on Steam, job done, PlayStation, there you go.
Xbox. And I would say get Shenmue 3 on Steam as well, on your Steam Deck as well.
Yeah.
Because that's how I've been playing through it as well. In bed, cozy, comfortable, relaxed.
That sounds amazing.
It's a great way of experiencing all Shenmue games. But Shenmue
I've been
3,
playing Shenmue 3 in PSVR 2, and I know it's not a VR game, but just seeing it on like a massive screen in front of your eyes, I was loving it. It gives it a whole new perspective. But if I could do that in bed, then that would be even better.
Like VR in bed?
VR in bed, yeah.
That's the
Steam
whole
Deck
other
VR.
Let's not go there. Okay. Anyway, out of everything that you guys have done, or either you guys directly or have been involved with or seen, what's like the one thing that the community has done to get Shenmue that you guys think was like the pinnacle of the involvement of the community in getting more Shenmue stuff?
I honestly think the tweetathons were, when those came out and were targeted, and
They were pivotal, weren't they?
I would argue Team U probably had, in terms of single point of impact, probably one of the largest impacts any community groups had. I think the tweetathons were the turning point in allowing that community to be targeted, centralized towards, here's a poll, go and vote on it. Here's a video, go watch it, like it, whatever. That was the single point, I think, where that cog turned from this is never going to happen to we're going to try and make this happen as much as we can, and then people started listening.
Yeah, and I think it's telling when even when the Kickstarter happens, the first update is like Shenmue saved, so it's like a play on words from the hashtag Save Shenmue. And I think even Sega did something similar, didn't they, with the Save Shenmue HD? It was like, we hear you loud and clear. You know, that I definitely agree with that. I think they were pivotal, just annoying the hell out of them until they make it.
Exactly. So that's the thing here. Even if you didn't want Shenmue 3 to happen, even if you were annoyed by the tweetathons, but you knew about them, you couldn't just. Everyone knew about this, so it was. I agree, pivotal in getting this done. So yeah, and the response to the Kickstarter was pretty amazing as well. Record breaking, pledges. So that was pretty amazing as well.
The timing with the E3 announcements, how it was set up like that, it was like you couldn't have asked for a better way, because you're getting people backing the game that were only backing it because of the hype from that E3 conference, and that's not just going to happen any other way, in my opinion. I think that E3 stage definitely propelled the Kickstarter to like your 7 million. Otherwise, it may have been a little bit more under radar, perhaps if it was just announced on a platform with no show and tell. It was like that moment was amazing.
It was perfect, wasn't it? The way that built up to it, the forklift tweet before, which I know Sony were quite upset about, but still.
I dismissed it so quickly. I thought, it's like you is being cheeky there. Yeah, there's a forklift. Nah, nothing's going to happen. But I stayed up anyway to watch
and that's the thing, though, isn't
conference.
It? Because
because of the tweets.
And that's what it did. It did it for a lot of people. They saw that tweet and thought, "No,
but I'm
going to watch it. I'm going to watch it anyway." And then
I was, my wife was sleeping in bed. I was laying on the couch watching, looking at the TV. And then when I started, the music started, I like jumped up. No!
The second.
I shouted, and my wife was like, what happened? What happened?
Every Shenmue fan in that moment.
It's Shenmue. I'm sleeping. Shut up. Okay, sorry. It's Shenmue.
But it's true, man. It's like when you're at school and you've got your history books out and it's got like 1866 and there's like a picture of some dude in a leotard or something. Fast forward to like whatever the kids at school are reading. The history pages are going to have an E3, a forklift tweet. It's like it just makes history.
That's brilliant. Yeah. So definitely people should be, or schools should be teaching about video games, as we mentioned
they should.
In a previous episode. Should be mandatory, as Matt said. Yeah, definitely. Okay.
This week's episode of the Sega Lounge is sponsored by Bob's Pizzeria in Dobuita. When you're feeling hungry and all you can think about is eating a nice big slice of pizza or the whole pie, come to Bob's Pizzeria in Dobuita. Contrary to our name and pretty much common sense, Bob's Pizzeria is owned by Mario Griani, a veteran Italian chef. Mario learned his craft from the best pizza makers in Italy. They just didn't teach him how to properly name a restaurant. If you want to try the best margarita pizza in all of Yokosuka, made by a clearly stereotyped Italian man with a name and mustache that reminds you of a well-known plumber, come to Bob's Pizzeria in Dobuita. Open all day, every day, unless it's closed.
You want some of the pizza? Cheese a melting, the taste of love, huh?
This week's episode of the Sega Lounge is sponsored by the Tomato Convenience Store in Dobuita. It's your one-stop shop for all your everyday needs. Need some food for your cat? Some batteries for your flashlight? Or a light bulb to light up a creepy basement under your father's dojo? Come to the Tomato Convenience Store in Dobuita. Got a craving for some caramel or chocolate? Need some cassette tapes to jam to your favorite songs? Come to the Tomato Convenience Store in Dobuita. Buy an item and you'll be automatically entered into our raffle. You can win an amazing boombox for your room. It comes in 3 colors. Tomato Convenience Store in Dobuita. We sell everything but tomatoes.
So that's your favorite thing so far, right? You know, the one that you consider like pivotal, the biggest one. Going forward, and for people listening in, and let's say we were able to persuade every Shenmue fan who hasn't been involved with the community to, you know, do their part and do stuff. It matters. It works. We've all seen it. So how can people get involved now?
It's a lot trickier, I'd say, because, again, we haven't got that momentum. We need that momentum. So I would suggest supporting Air Twister. I would suggest leaving a 10-star review of Shenmue 3, as we just mentioned, and just continuing to take part in these tweetathons, because we still do them. We still do them on the 4th of every month. Hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4, hashtags Shenmue Anime 2. Either of those 2 hashtags is just another means of trying to get more eyes on this, more get that momentum back that we had, because it's still happening, it's still there. It just needs more participation. We're doing a photo collage, Matt, aren't we? We're trying to sort of rekindle that sort of image of like the community and all the different country flags across the whole world, the whole globe, because we are still vocal.
Yeah, we are. And I mean, that collage, for example, is, I think that I've had 18 different countries as an example, which is, that's on par with the ones prior to Shenmue 3, which is fantastic. And I do think things are starting to bubble up.
Yeah.
Because you look at Twitter as a whole with Shenmue content from Shenmue Forever, us, Phantom River Stone. There's a few other new Shenmue groups have popped up as well. There's like Wandering Through Shenmue. There's No Context Shenmue have popped up. There's a few new groups that have, over the last probably 3-4 years, have started popping up as well. So there's clearly a passion there still. But the engagement around the Shenmue content has started creeping up across the board. I don't know why. I don't know if it's something the groups are doing or whatever, but it started to creep up. So there is that start of momentum happening, but it needs to be centralized toward the hashtags on the 4th of every month. I mean, we're talking about also trying to get the auto tweets back up and running, aren't we? It's a project that we've had we're trying to get over the line. It's a lot more complicated now that a certain someone ruined Twitter, and it's made our lives hell trying to sort it out. But
So I had a question about that. So are they going to be called like Exathons now?
Is that right? Where have you heard that from? Oh, tweetathons. Oh,
Instead of
I never thought about that. Exathons.
I was like,
oh my god.
that could be misunderstood, couldn't it? Oh dear.
See, all this stuff's happening overnight. I've just seen my little bird turn into an X on my phone. It's just stuff that's just being enforced on us unnecessarily.
I saw, I don't know if it was earlier today or yesterday. So the Shenmue Dojo Twitter account or X account, whatever, retweeted something. Reaxed. I'm going to stop now. A Brazilian tweet, tweet by a Brazilian person that said like something like, "I never see anyone who's a Shenmue fan." And I was
Yeah.
like, what? And then the
What?
replies,
Yeah.
some of them from people that have been on the show, including Renato Almeida, was a big Shenmue fan and Sega fan. Like, what? Sorry, what? No, we're here. We're vocal. We love Shenmue, and everyone's like, yeah. And everyone, like in Brazil, was like saying Shenmue is the best. We all love Shenmue. Where have you been hiding? No, we're all here. So it was great seeing the replies to that one tweet of someone saying, "No, I'm the only Shenmue fan on Twitter." No,
It
you're
seems
not.
crazy.
You're
I
not.
don't know about that. I don't know if you could go through the whole of Twitter and not see a single Shenmue fan.
Exactly.
The way it turns out. But
You're on the bad side of Twitter, maybe.
Yeah.
Like on the wrong side of Twitter.
they're
if
not
you
following
never
the dojo,
see-
obviously.
Of course. Shame on you. Yeah. So I think I cut you off there, Matt. So you were saying talking about the tweets, right?
Yeah.
The X's.
The X's, the retweets, whatever you want to call them. That's the imperative thing here. Is if you want to be loud and vocal, people need to be engaging in those specific events that were put together to centralize the voice, to give us one voice, one community, one goal, that sort of thing, to push us forward and make sure that these publishers, Yu Suzuki, Sega, don't forget about us, because if we go quiet, we will be forgotten about. And that will be the end of it. And we'll all be sat here in our 50s going, could we have done more?
That's an
Hashtag
incredibly
let's get
sad
Shenmue,
thought. Really, really sad. Yeah. Could have we done more? That's really,
Just
really sad.
looking into
Yeah.
a bowl of soup.
Teardrop.
And yelling at kids outside, get off my lawn.
Get off the lawn.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to ask something. That's really incredibly sad now. Really, really.
Let's not make
disheartening.
that happen. Let's go out there.
That's like
Yeah.
the bad future. So people get involved. That's the message here. And so since people are getting, I remember now. It's all about the money as well, right? So and we have to be.
True.
Yeah,
It's not cynical. We have to be realistic.
No,
It's
of
all about the
course.
money. It's a business, right? I'm sure that Yu Suzuki cares about Shenmue and the community in another way, not just as a business and as a way of making money. I'm sure he cares about this story that he created, and he wants to make it, available for everyone to enjoy. But at the end of the day, it's a business, right? It's the video game industry for a reason. So people need to get behind this and spend money on this franchise as well. So you mentioned merch. We've been having few items.
Trip Red merch, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we'll get more in the future, and that's a good way to support the series and show Sega and Yu Suzuki and everyone else involved that we really do care about this, and we really are willing to spend money and make this a profitable franchise for them.
That's the thing. We're ready and raring to spend money on stuff. We just need the stuff. It's like the anime Blu-ray. It should have had a Blu-ray. We would have bought it instantly. It's just madness that it hasn't. There's like money there that is not going to happen anymore, really, because people have like bootlegged it, or they've had the fix now. And if they did release a Blu-ray, it wouldn't do as well, I don't think, as it would have done had they released it when the anime was like relevant at the time. So there's stuff like that we and me and Matt, we've spoken about episodic Shenmue 4, where we came up with a bit of quite a nice plan, I thought, of a way to make money. So like we buy episode 1, which is like Bailu Village, for example, and then whilst we're playing that and we're giving Wisenet money back, they're working on the next part, and then they can break it up a little bit like that. And these ways that we've spoken about that can make a Shenmue profitable. It's just I don't know how you get that information across, or how realistic it is at the end of the day to assume that Shenmue is going to make the millions and millions that I'm sure the investors and the publishers want out of the series.
I think there has to be an acceptance that Shenmue is never going to bust hundreds of millions of dollars. That opportunity, unless they literally relaunch the whole franchise from a proper ground up remake, and
Yakuza Zero style.
And change the fundamentals of Shenmue to something that I think would potentially alienate the original fans of it. I don't think that opportunity is going to ever happen. That opportunity would have been when it came out originally on the Dreamcast, and we all know what happened there. Despite selling pretty damn well, obviously it didn't make enough money. Shenmue 2 suffered, therefore, with the Dreamcast being killed, going over to Xbox, the hiatus, etc. I think there has to be an acceptance from a publisher, and also I think to a point, Yu Suzuki, as to what they can do with what they have. Because, I mean, Shenmue 3 had a budget of $20 million. That was Kickstarter money, Shibuya Productions, Deep Silver, and some Sony money. Not Sony fully funding it. Just let me correct that one right there and then. But there needs to be some sort of realism around what can we do with what we've got. You've got the Shenmue 3 engine. That doesn't really need tweaking outside of sorting the combat system out, maybe tweaks here or there. But the systems are there now. So instantly you're going to save a lot of time, a lot of money that you've had to chuck at from Shenmue 3 point of view, because you had to build it from the ground up there. No source code, nothing. They built it all from the ground up. So that element's costed in inverted commas. It's then going, right, we've got excellent, this is what we're going to need to make a Shenmue game. How can we make that happen? How can we attract the funding? And what is the strategy around not just selling the game, but selling the brand, essentially, for want of a better expression, rinsing the Shenmue fans of all their money, because that's what it's going to come down to. It's a money-driven industry, but there needs to be an acceptance from whoever takes it on that it's not going to bust hundreds of millions of dollars, but it can be equally, make you $5-10 million, which is still a profit. It's just whether and this is where some smaller publishers may look at that and go, do you know what, that's a worthwhile investment. But a larger publisher may look at it and go, exactly, it's not really worth our time. But then it goes back to the strategy we talked about within in-games. A publisher that thrives on legacy IP, that might be right up their street in theory. But there has to be realism, I think, on both sides. We're not going to get a Shenmue 4 that's going to have a $60-70 million budget. It's not going to happen. And the sales figures aren't going to attract that sort of budget.
Do you still think it needs a 20 million one, Matt?
I think they could do it for less, given if they just use the Shenmue 3 engine, maybe adjust for inflation, because obviously with the cost of living and everything going through the roof, you'd have to adjust it. But I personally don't think they need a bigger budget than Shenmue 3. I think they could use the engine, hammer the story with what they've got, and really sort of zone in on what Shenmue 4 needs to be. If they do that, I think we'd be not too far away.
That's the thing, isn't it? That's the probably the biggest issue and question on Yu Suzuki's mind. What really is, so what's Shenmue to be fair, right? So how can I focus on the essentials for this game and not get lost in, because getting lost in with the sidetracked with other things, having a lot of things to experience is part of what Shenmue is and has been. How can you be a little bit more focused and not lose the charm that people expect from Shenmue?
And that's a
challenge in itself.
It's a very hard balance. And I also think Yu Suzuki himself is a man who likes to challenge himself in terms of what he can do with games and pushing things forward. And he's inherently ambitious. Even with Shenmue 3, you look at the original Kickstarter project and how big that scope was. It was massive. And there is an element of it that you probably look and go, was that too much? Was that scope too broad? Potentially, it's a discussion point. So you'd think some of the learning from Shenmue 3 would be, okay, Shenmue 4, let's focus it in on, right, what are the priorities? What do people want from a Shenmue 4? I think everybody would be saying story. Everybody will be saying the story content is the most important thing. I think 95% of Shenmue fans would take Shenmue 4 with Shenmue 3's engine, with minimal changes, as long as the story was driven forward and of a really good standard. I don't think anybody would complain. And I think that if I was in charge of Wisenet, that's what I'd be saying to everybody: story, 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 and then the rest of it we can tweak as we go.
That's the thing. We've not fought for 18 years for like getting Rio back into a forklift and driving around a harbour. It's like it's the story that we want to know what happens next, isn't it? Nice timing, Casey.
So for people listening in, I have a Rio in a forklift right now.
Yeah,
always
if you've got spare pocket change, spare bit of time, by all means, put a little forklift segment in if you need to. But it's like we've been waiting, and ever since that ending with the cave in Shenmue 2, it's nothing else matters apart from what happens next. You know what I mean? We don't need any more lucky hit. We don't need these things that if that was a costly amount of money that they put into Shenmue 3 that made the story content suffer, then we probably would have, chopped half of that away to focus more on the story. And if, like you say, if they can find that balance with Shenmue 4, going back to the money elements, maybe don't go with too many different people as well. It's like there's too many people involved in the Shenmue games. It's always very awkward, isn't it? You've got Epic Games, you've got Deep Silver, Koch Media, Shibuya Productions, Sega. There's too many different things going on, and I feel like any ounce of profits is instantly like split crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't make anyone any money.
but it's also a source of funding, right? So
and
whether you agree with the Epic Games thing, the exclusivity that we had at the beginning or not, it was money.
Yeah,
right? So
it was
more money for them. So
and it was money that went towards the profit margin. So you can't fault a business for going down that route.
But I do agree, though, that it would be better to maybe make it a little bit more focused, like on 2 or 3 players that actually do add something to the game, to the project, instead of just like people throwing in money and expecting something back, but not really contributing.
Well, this is what I was thinking. Like, they probably could self-publish a Shenmue 4 now and reap the rewards of not having all these different companies and investors involved, because like Matt says, the Shenmue 3 engine's there. They just need to work however slowly or gradual, whatever, on the stuff that the fans want. And it perhaps doesn't need like an influx of 20 million to make it an insane game. It just needs to be there and enough to sort of get the sales still, because it's a Shenmue 4 and we're all going to buy it and we all want to see what happens next. Priority wise,
it's a challenge, because but then there are the other people who didn't like Shenmue 3 and will probably get Shenmue 4, but then if it's not exactly up to their standards, and if it's like more focused experience, they'll complain again.
It's difficult.
You can't please everyone.
You can't.
But it's a challenge.
I do think the one thing that's come through from people who didn't like it and did like it, we've all said the same thing, that the story content in 3 wasn't quite where people wanted it. So Shenmue 4 has to nail the story, because if it doesn't, I think we're in a real world that's not going to be particularly good for Shenmue. I think it could finish it, quite frankly. It could finish the franchise if the story's not there.
I can't see how it won't be story driven. When you look at those chapter tiles,
you'd hope not.
Yu Suzuki's like saying we're 40% of the way through the story or whatever.
It's difficult.
But I feel that people who complain about the story in Shenmue 3, there's some validity to these points.
Yeah.
Felt like it could have been more central to the whole game. Could have advanced the whole story a little bit more. At times, it felt like Shenmue 2.5. Right, 2.75 maybe in terms of like story progression. But
there's a lot of people that thought it was going to be a trilogy as well for some reason.
Yeah.
So everyone expected the series to end with number 3 as well. So
when you
not
take
sure why, but yeah.
And when you take this Kickstarter scope, which was huge, they probably then, and the budget wasn't static. Bear in mind, they raised all this money, then they got publishing funding much later on, so they then had to up and go up. And I'm sure they may have had plans around that, I don't know, but it's not easy to scale up and down to a project if your budget's not static. You don't know what you're working with. You're also hamstrung by the Kickstarter because you've made all these promises early out the gate, haven't you? You've got all these stretch goals. You've gone, right, at X amount of money, we're going to have Baisha, loads of mini games. And we know Baisha didn't happen. They got rid of it and repurposed the funding for something else.
And the original release date was 2017, wasn't it? So you've got people already hounding them, like, where's my game?
Yeah, and it's like, and things change. It's a Kickstarter, but I think the problem they also had, I think, is they had to fulfill the Kickstarter promises, and they may well have wanted to hone back and go, actually, do you know what? This isn't going to cut it. This isn't going to allow us for a focused in experience, a rounded Shenmue experience, but we have the Kickstarter goals. Whereas with the Shenmue 4, they haven't got that pressure. Assuming they go through traditional publishing methods and don't go to a Kickstarter again, which I don't think they will, they don't have that pressure. They don't have that people watching it like a hawk every 30 seconds. They can literally go, we have X amount of money. This is what we're going to go for. And if they get halfway through the project and go, actually, do you know what? We need to scale this back here because it's not quite going to go the way we thought. It allows them the flexibility to do it, which I don't think the Kickstarter lended itself towards.
Yeah.
Too many eyes on the Kickstarter.
Exactly,
and you've got like trailers that were like way hot, part way through development that everyone's seen publicly.
Yeah,
and you have to make promises. It's a Kickstarter. You have to promise people something, and sometimes you have to be very thorough in what you promise. You will do this, and there's this stretch goal here and there, and then halfway through the working on the game, maybe doesn't really make much sense anymore. But you have to keep your promises, or upset a whole lot of people even more. Again, hard balance to keep. So
exactly,
so it's understandable. So on that note, if you let's say there are no nothing holding Yu Suzuki back, nothing hold YSNet back, what would be your ideal pie in the sky Shenmue 4 game?
Tricky one as well, because again, we've seen the chapter tiles, so it's like there's a lot of stuff I want to see. I want to see them travel to Liyuang, find out Shenhua's backstory and what's going on there, and the scene where she's on the swing with her mum and dad or whatever. And there's just too many different crazy things going on in those scenes that didn't make sense throughout Shenmue 3. There was it just added more questions, if anything, like with the Emperor and the Verdant Bridge and that sort of stuff, the mirrors, what's going on with all that sort of stuff. We need to find out. I want to see Shuing's brother, Ziming, the charm thing, the half of the yin and yang pendant. It's got to address that. If you look at the chapter tiles, you just, my mind always runs wild seeing like Yuanda Zoo. We've had the pleasure of seeing some of these chapter tiles, Matt, in super high quality because of the documentary. Adam Scipione filmed at least the first 7 pages of these chapter tiles with his 4K Ultra HD camera, and the beautiful, amazing artwork. And you're seeing characters you never saw before, and like Zuyunda sitting in his wheelchair or whatever above an arena. It's very ominous, as though he's like a bad guy. There's a lot of these elements that I want to see what the original plan was for all that. And there's a lot to get through still. If you actually look at the chapter tiles that we haven't actually had in the series yet, these like 6 out of 11. Yeah. So we're only like really halfway through the story. And the train as well.
The thing, right?
The train.
Yeah, and should we get like the rest of the story in Shenmue 4?
I think we need another game, personally.
I think it would be better to have at least another game, right? But
yeah.
So we're talking about like pie in the sky.
This is me just being greedy.
Ideal, like utopian ideas. So let's go with that.
Say if there's 6 chapters left, I want Shenmue 4 to do 3, Shenmue 5 to do the other 3, and just flesh them out. Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
I'd agree with that. I'd love 2 games to do it properly and really hammer that home. and give us the full Shenmue experience. I think from a story perspective, I'd like to see Ryo's development as a character and also his actions to actually carry some bloody consequences for a change. When you think of Shenmue 1, he saves Nozomi, nothing really happened. Shenmue 2 defeats Dolnio, breaks his ribs, messes him up, leaves, not a problem. Shenmue 3, they eventually save Shenhua's father, get out of there, and he gets saved sort of by the skin of his teeth by Ren at the end there. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't actually played it, but there we are. But his actions need to carry consequence because he keeps being told all the way through, you're lacking, your mind isn't right, you're putting people in danger. But he's got away with it every single time. So something has to happen in Shenmue 4, and my theory is that he'll get Ren killed.
I was about to joke. We wanted to see death. But okay. Yeah.
He didn't
really
keep
want
his
to
friends
see.
close.
You weren't really. No.
I mean, there's two theories with Ren. One is that because he's driven by money, he'll double cross Ryo and then realize at the last minute and then like sacrifice himself. The other element is, bearing in mind he saved Ryo once already, technically from Lan Di, is that Ryo puts himself in another dangerous situation. Ren bundles in to try and save him, but actually perishes because of it. And that's then Ryo's epiphany moment of, oh hell, my actions are, I've lost somebody close to me. I didn't keep my friends close. Like in the first game, I was told by my father, keep your friends those you love close to you. He got somebody killed. That could be the moment where his path for vengeance subsides and actually he goes down a different route. And something has to happen to push his character forward, to develop him forward. And also in the chapter cards, he's holding a body.
Yeah.
So
the Ren thing's actually quite possible because of those chapter tiles. There's one where, because obviously Ren's got the white bandana, and throughout all of the chapter tiles, Akira, Ryo, that's depicted in them, hasn't got a bandana. And it's like chapter 10 where he's holding the dead body. The person that he's holding has got like long flowing hair, and suddenly Ryo's got a bandana on his head. So it's like that was the plausible connection between that person and who it might be, kind of the thing. And I don't know.
Could it be that Ryo has to kill someone close to him, like maybe Ren,
like the
for some
twist?
reason?
Yeah,
it could be. I mean, it could happen that he has to.
Because like he's holding like the body could be like he had to do
his
something.
Friend as well. It's a good little twist, that is, because you got the following in his father's footsteps. Maybe Iwao didn't want to kill his friend,
but he had to do it for some reason.
He had to do it,
right? Yeah. Maybe he got corrupted by the mirrors or something.
And then one comes after Ryo years later.
Yes. Shenmue 16.
Joy runs him over.
Awesome. Yeah, like so definitely something that we want to see.
There's definitely potential
story,
there,
right?
Definitely potential there for like twists and turns that we're not expecting.
I wonder if there's we know that the story, like the main plot lines probably have remained unchanged. Probably in Yu Suzuki's head, but I wonder if he changed anything like big-ish throughout the development of these games.
Well, my worry was like, obviously you got the floating sword at the end of Shenmue 2, that mystical magical stuff that was lacking in Shenmue 3. So my worry was like he's gone back to, people want realism. They don't want that magical thing. I feel like he may have even said that somewhere, that like a lot of people weren't sure about the mystical stuff and he wants to make it more realistic. I'm not sure, but that stuff for me over time is like gradually what I prefer now. It's like that was the thing that was like making me think and wonder more. Like I did start off when I was playing Shenmue 1, like the realism was what captivated me, like this, living this other life.
Yeah.
And then Shenmue 2, up until the Guilin segment, the same. And then the Guilin segment was like kind of caught me off guard, where it was like the first instinct of like this mystical stuff that's actually underlying, and these like branches of it throughout parts of the story that you've played before that. Like you start seeing things taking shape. You start to like recognize Master Chen talking about Chio and as more of a like, oh, he could actually be talking about something that could be literally a mythical beast thing that's going to spawn from the mirrors. And then you've got Oishi-san in the antique shop talking about the emperor, and he once read a book where this emperor guy ordered for these Phantom Riverstone mirrors to be produced. So there's like elements there that lead through the game. And it was like only at the end of chapter 2, at Shenmue 2, where those first thoughts even entered your head about the mystical stuff. So I kind of hope that they go down that route. I want to see like what Shenmue on about when she's like saying that she's experienced 100 birthdays. What does that mean? How does she get a strange feeling when she looks at the wall scroll of Liu Wang? What is it about their history of parents? Who are they? Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff there that's we definitely don't know, that's very mystical.
I've always thought that there was the possibility that there's like, and that would be probably piss most people off, but like there's like everyone's invested in this mythical story and legend, and then at the end it's all just a bust, and it's all just people are greedy and want money, and they're chasing after something and killing people for it, and it's nothing. But I think that would piss many people off.
See, I wouldn't mind as long as it's addressed. I feel like they've introduced these elements, and if they were to never mention them ever again, it'd be like, well, what was going on there? Like that would leave you feeling a bit flat, if you know what I mean. But if there's a reason behind it, like it's just all made
they
up.
have to address them at some point. I feel even
so.
in Shenmue 3, I think they're building up to something else, something more. So I don't think it would make much sense to just dismiss that part of the story altogether. I don't think.
Yeah,
I feel
there's
like
just a few little things
sense.
that like worry me, like the changing of that Liu Wang wall scroll, like that not being there in Shenmue 3, slightly worries me. But I don't know why. It was never somewhere that we assumed that we'd be heading to, but the more you think about it, the more it sort of relates to Shenmue's past, and I don't know if the story's been changed there somewhat.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so we'll have to wait and see, obviously. One thing that I wanted to mention before we wrap things up, because we've been talking for a little bit now, but we've had the anime, which for me at least caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to get anything like it. And it really... I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was, quite frankly, which is nice. I was pleasantly surprised. Would you be open to something else along the lines of that? Not really as a second season of the anime, but let's say Sega have been talking a little bit about like doing movies, films based on their IPs. There's potential Streets of Rage project in the works, like Golden Axe has been addressed as well. Would you like to see a Shenmue movie?
I think a live-action Shenmue movie would actually
a live action, yeah,
be brilliant.
That was my second question.
Work, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
I'd prefer games, obviously, first and foremost, but yeah, I could see Shenmue working as a movie for sure. I'd take a movie quite happily. It'd have to be like if they're writing games off and going, no, we're going to finish it. This is the story. Bam. Might need more than one film, but...
Oh, well, yeah.
Tom Holland as Ryo Hazuki.
See, that's the thing.
I'm kidding, but am I?
Well, and you don't know these days, but it would make a cracking film. I think they could definitely
Scarlett
do.
Johansson as
Shampoo.
I'm sorry.
Could we come up with more cast
could
members?
Probably.
I
Dame Judi Dench shooing.
The Rock as Ren.
Nice. He is on everything, to be fair.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, James. You were saying something.
Who would play Chai, though? That's a bit of a difficult one, right?
Chris Rock, just for a laugh.
Chris Rock.
No,
What, he shaves his head.
Oh, could be. I was thinking.
Who played Gollum?
Could
And-
be. Can remember Adam
Don't know.
Circus.
Andrew
No,
Serkis?
Andrew any Circus.
That's it, yeah.
I think that's his name. Could be. I also thought of Steve. Steve what? Buscemi, I think. Steve Buscemi.
Oh,
It's
I know what you mean.
Like
yeah,
the buggy eyes.
what's
Can't
that
remember
show?
his
Yeah,
name.
I know what you mean. He's in a show, isn't he? I can't think what it is. But like
So-
where he's in
so
like
yeah,
a black
maybe.
suit.
Yeah. But so, yes, that would
On
be a
board for
good
that.
idea with the better casting than the one that we just had.
Yeah.
Boardwalk Empire. That's what. Is that it?
Oh,
He's in
yeah.
that, right?
Exactly.
That's
Yeah, that's it.
That's what I was trying to
That's
think.
him.
Just
That's him.
click me. Yeah, like Matt says, the games first, but I mean, we were kind of not relying on the anime, but that was our sort of safety net, wasn't it? If the games failed, at least potentially there could be a season 2 of that, and then that's been killed off now. So yeah, bring on the live action film.
I don't see the live action film being like more than just Shenmue 1 and 2 though, as well, like in terms of story.
I don't think they should
them.
rush it again. I think they need to really just flesh it out more. Like I could imagine a live action film just covering Shenmue 1, but just do it really well and dark in
1 and
places.
2. 1 and 2.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think it's mostly the same problem all over again. They'll just do 1 and 2, and if the film does well, they'll think about doing maybe Shenmue 3 in the next one.
The problem you've got there is like the anime felt rushed, and that was like 3 hours in total, whereas like a film is like an hour and a half. So
Yeah,
Make a 3-hour film, you'd be all right.
okay, so
Yeah, but yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Mm.
You could, but you'd have to like really flesh out some of the characters in Shenmue 1, which would be great.
it would be great.
Would be great.
What about
Would
a
have
little TV
more,
show
like-
then? That isn't a live action TV show.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Like, if well done, everything's more than welcome. But again, the problem is still the same. They have to, if you want to see the whole story,
Yeah.
it has to do well. And even I don't know. So apparently the anime did really well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But things happen, and money talks louder than anything else and anyone else. So
I think you've got the issue now is like how many times do you restart the series? It's it's had the re-releases, it's had the anime. People have played 1 and 2. People have watched 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. It needs to be pushing on now. So you got your 3. It has to be Shenmue 4 next. So again, comes back to the community thing. Circle around back to community. We need to be driving home that even though we do still use the hashtag Shenmue Anime 2, just because there's always a glimmer of hope. With whatever medium is available, and the fact that there has been an anime, there's always a glimmer of hope. Something could happen, something could change overnight, and then it's more possible, more viable for an anime to continue again.
and it's a very recent thing as well. So it still makes sense to push for it.
I think the emphasis on the fact that we've already done it. We had Shenmue 2, we had nothing for 15 years, 18 years, whatever, and it still happened. So despite people saying like, oh, it's a dead franchise, anime's dead, cancelled, nothing's ever gone unless you give up. And once people have given up on it, then all hope's lost. But at the moment, we're still striving. We're still. I say it almost in every show that I'm still optimistic. I'm quite an optimistic guy, and the fact that these things have happened within like a year from now, like the anime was like this time last year, it was relevant. So things don't die that quick. Do you know what I mean? It's still fresh.
Yeah.
It should that should be a fresh thing. A year is nothing. So Shenmue's stuff is happening as we speak.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm pretty optimistic as well. I'm not really sure why, but I don't think. I think we have reasons to be optimistic more than maybe in between Shenmue 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I mean, as you guys said, social media, people are, companies know that people want Shenmue, Shenmue content, Shenmue games. So
And some of the
just a matter
companies
of-
want it themselves.
yeah,
Yeah, because
definitely.
you find fans in some of the strangest places. Some of the interactions me and Matt have had with certain individuals who, like Limited Run Josh Fairhurst, who he's been quoted as saying if Shenmue 4 happens, he'll self-fund a Shenmue 5. So you've got people in these sort of high places that want to see it themselves. So yeah, it's
Yeah. So hopefully we'll make it. We'll see it in our lifetime, in Yu
crossed.
Suzuki's lifetime, and we'll make it happen. So people already know the hashtag. Let's get Shenmue 4 on the 4th of every month, and hashtag Shenmue Anime 2. Right.
spot on.
That's
Yeah.
the one. So these are the hashtags. However, people can get involved with the Shenmue Dojo community as well. And how can they do that, Matt?
Ooh, let's see how if I can condense this down into.
How can't they do that? That's more like it. So many ways.
They can't do it by writing a letter because I won't read it.
You usually do this
you.
really well, Matt.
So, how you can get involved with Shenmue Dojo? First and foremost, the sort of the bread and butter is our forums. shenmuedojo.com/forums. You can find all the sort of the in-depth Shenmue chat on there. We've got the website, which is shenmuedojo.com. All the latest news, views, reviews, all of that sort of stuff is on there. We're on YouTube, Shenmue Dojo VOD, where you'll find streams. I'm putting out weekly videos at the moment. James is doing his lore streams every fortnight as well, among other bits and pieces that we're putting together. Twitter is Shenmue_Dojo. Instagram, Shenmue_Dojo. Facebook, Shenmue Dojo. Twitch, you probably guessed this by now, Shenmue Dojo. We're pretty much everywhere and anywhere that you can find us. So if you want to watch a Shenmue related video, you know where you can find us. You want to have more Shenmue talk, you've got the forums, or you've even got our Discord now as well. So there's plenty of ways that you can get involved with not just Shenmue Dojo, but the Shenmue community as well.
And if for some reason you like the sound of me and Matt's voice, you've got the podcast as well. Shenmue Dojo Show.
That's true. That's true. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. And of course, x.com/Shenmue_Dojo.
Oh, that's the one.
You can X the guys if you
Terror
want.
player.
On Terror Player as well. On terrorplayer.com as well. Yes. And a shout out to Sukapass, because I feel like it's an underrated project. James, I really do enjoy Sukapass. So I from time to time I'm in a situation where I have to wait for someone or do something, and I have my phone and I think, oh look, Sukapass, the Sukapass icon. Let me just open up the app and find me just trying to get some capsule toys over there as well. So really nice. It's incredible how much nostalgia there is in this little app, which is not showing up quite right.
Is it keying out? It's
on
weird,
screen. It's keying out a little bit, but just check out Sukapass. It's really, really recommended for some nostalgia. Really revives that passport feeling.
How are you getting on with the capsule toy collecting? That was like one of the recent updates we did.
Need to get around to collecting more, to be honest. Yeah, need more.
It's quite difficult.
More. Yeah, I find myself like touching everything, which is sometimes inappropriate when you see Nozomi on screen. Anyway,
maybe you'll get one from her.
Okay, maybe.
Or end up on x.com.
Exactly. It all comes around to X in the end. So Matt and James, thank you very much. This has been really great. I love talking Shenmue, but I especially love talking about Shenmue with you guys. You guys like the top tier connoisseurs of Shenmue, and I really love the work you've been doing. So for people listening in, remember to check out Shenmue Dojo. All links in the show notes. Remember to take part in the Exathons now on the 4th of every month, and let's get Shenmue 4, right?
For sure, man.
Let's get Shenmue 4.
Let's
Much
get Shenmue
appreciated.
4. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming.
Cheers, Casey.
Thanks for having us.
I'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. See you next week, James. Yeah.
The Sega Lounge, hosted by me, KC, and part of Radio Sega's network of live shows and podcasts. Theme song and incidental music by OSC. Find them at opussciencecollective.bandcamp.com. Got any suggestions? Drop me an email to podcast@thesegalounge.com. Find us at The Sega Lounge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find previous episodes of the show by going to thesegalounge.com and wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. A Mixed On Productions podcast.